Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financial Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America, and with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant, and today we are handling General Ledger Lesson 56, and Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson of Oracle Financial Functional Training. Today in this lesson we are going to look at hopefully these three concepts using summary accounts in FSG reports. We are going to look at report sets in FSG, and we are going to look at FSG level of detail. If we finish these three topics in this lesson, then I'm glad to say we are going to finish our topics in the FSG report. So let's get straight to it. We had already introduced the concept of summary accounts, and we had said that it is one of the ways in which we can improve the performance of FSG tool. We already know what summary accounts are. We did this when we were creating. We had a topic specifically for summary accounts, and this is a good place. You can go and refresh if you have forgotten. Remember how we create summary accounts. We have to create parent values, and then when we put these parent values in roll-up groups, and then we use the roll-up groups to create summary account templates. And then the summary account template can be used to create summary accounts where balances are maintained. And we said that the reason why summary accounts improve the performance of FSG is because, unlike when we are doing the reports using detail accounts or parent values, summary account balances are already maintained by the system, that is why we created the summary accounts, so that we can do inquiries at that level. If we are using the detail level accounts, then those reports, that financial information, is produced on the fly. For example, when you want to total a range of accounts, for example, you want to add up all the assets activity. If you use detail or parent values, then the totaling will take place on the fly when you request the report. So before the report is produced, Oracle has to go find the individual balances, then add them up, then now produce the report. But when you use summary accounts, the balances are already maintained. So all Oracle has to do is retrieve those balances from the balances table and display them on the report. In our case, of course, it will be difficult to see this effect because we have such little information, data stored in terms of what we have in our tables. But when you're dealing with a client who's doing thousands and thousands of transactions, then the effect of using summary accounts will definitely be felt. So what I'm going to do is just show you how to use summary accounts in a FSG report. Not sure whether this session is current, so I'm just going to log out first. So let's go to Maskani, and let's go to reports, define row set. Let's query one of the row sets that we have under Maskani. So let's look at these assets and expenses. Okay. Let's go to define rows, and let's look at this account assignment. So this is what we had done to this row set when I was demonstrating how to use parent values in in a FSG tool. Okay, so we showed how we are going to use the parent value here. So in order to use summary accounts, what do we do? Like I have said, summary accounts are based on what? The parent values. Then you put the parent values in a roll-up group, okay? And then you create a summary account template, okay? So a parent value is in the picture, right? And remember, sometimes even if you don't have two groups of parent values, right, that you want to put under one roll-up group, you still have to create a roll-up group in order to create summary account. And the reason we do this is because, for example, if you want to add another parent value, then you can just add another parent value to that roll-up group. So in order to use summary accounts, we have to use the parent values here, okay? So for example, for this case, we have already selected the parent value here, total assets, which is the only parent value actually that we have in our implementation. And we do have a summary account template based on this, okay? So in order to use summary accounts, then we have to put parent values in our row set here. So we're going to leave this there. Now, in order to show that we are using summary accounts and not just the parent value, we have to click this button here. All right. So when you click that button there, then Oracle knows that you want it to go and use the summary account that's based on that parent value that you have selected there. All right. So that's good. Let's look at the other line definition, row definition that we have. We have expense accounts, and let's look at the assignments. Okay, now we don't have a parent value for these accounts. In your own implementation, you can go and create a parent value and then summary account template for this. It's a good way to refresh yourself, but we already have one for total assets, which we are going to rely on for this demonstration. And we are going to see how it's going to be different when we use the summary accounts versus when we don't. We're going to use this row set. So let's leave it that way and save our work. Let's go to defined report and query the Mascani reports. And let's look at we have this report here that uses the row set which we have selected summary accounts for, right? So like I said, we are doing summary accounts as part of the ways to improve FSG tool performance. But also, like I said, in our case, it's going to be hard to see that change in efficiency because we have such little data. So it doesn't make much of a difference if we use summary accounts or not. So in our case, what we are going to see is just that if we use summary accounts, that they work, and we're going to see the results. So we are not really focusing on the improved performance, but how to use summary accounts and the kind of output that we see. So let's run this report. We don't want to add anything else, so let's just submit. Let's wait for this to run. So that's completed, and let's see what the output is. And you can see what has been done for the asset accounts where we used the summary accounts. You can see that everything has been totaled. Well, we should have used actually another column set, because I can see this one is for budget. So maybe we'll run another report that shows actuals instead of budget amounts. But you can see that the summary account also works, and you can see that what was produced here was the total assets for company 001. The expense account, it looks like this was the only account in that range that had any activity. So perhaps we can run another report and see what we get. So let's change the. It's going to be, we are try to not to pay much attention to all the descriptions and everything. And let's use this. Let's see what. So this income statement here should have PTD amounts. Okay, actuals. Let's save that and let's submit. That's our ID. Let's wait for this to complete, and there it goes. Well, we're getting almost the same kind of report. Looks like under the expense accounts, we don't have a lot of activity, but you can see here what we are getting is total assets. And remember, in the row set, what we had entered was the parent value, and we had entered the option to expand. All right, and when we did that in the demonstration for parent values, we had all the accounts under asset accounts exploded, right? So you could see cash, and then you could see receivables, and so on and so on. We kept that row set the same way, but when we run this account using the summary option, then the balances are drawn from the summary accounts, okay, and they are total like this. So these balances may be for all the assets accounts that were hit for this period, okay. So that's the simple way we use a summary account. Like I said, you can try and create new summary account templates for other accounts. You can do it for your expenses, maybe you can do it for your liabilities and so on, and see how that looks on the report. But remember, summary accounts is one of the ways that we improve FSG tool performance. So the next thing that I want us to look at is running report sets. We know how to run single reports, but we can also run multiple reports concurrently. We can have single report sets or multiple report sets. All right. This is the navigation to define a report set. So report define report set. Let's go to Oracle and see how to do that. So report define report sets. So here you can define a report set. We can call this report set Maskani end month reports. What do we put here? We put the reports that we want to fall under this report set. Okay. So let's look for Maskani reports. These are the reports. So maybe at the end of the month, we might want to do Maskani group balance sheet. At the end of the month, we might want to do an income statement, right? And we can save this. Okay. So when we want to run a report set, how can we do it? We can go to reports, request, and then financial single report set. Okay. What is the report set that we want to run? It has Maskani in it, and it's the only one. And then this comes up, right? You can enter optional components for each report here. You can also select other options for each report here. You can run a report in exceptions mode if you want. Okay, and there are other parameters here, like the period that you want to run this in. All right, and you also have to select the reports that you want to run for this report set. Right, so here and here, if you want to run both of them, or you can just select all reports. Okay, or you can select a single one, whichever one you want. So if we submit this, we get 2 report IDs. And there they are, right? Perhaps the result of this is not that important. We already know what the reports look like, so you can go ahead and look at it in your own implementation. But that is how you do a report set. All right. Now that's a single. Anyway, I'm too tempted to look at it. So those are the reports, and there's the other one. Okay. So this is the balance sheet, and the previous one was the income statement, which we ran both of them at the same time. We can also define multiple. We can also run multiple report sets. So what does that mean? It means you have another report set. Okay, so you put these 2 report sets together. So one report set might have 2 reports, and the next report set might have 3 reports. So in total, you're going to produce 5 reports. All right. And in order to do that, we need to create another report set. So let's go to Oracle. Reports, define report set, Maskani, and month number 2 maybe. You can also use the auto copy feature here. You can just go to the report set that we just created, auto copy, and make changes if you want. Or you can just create a new one real quick. Let's put another report. Let's use this Maskani assets and budget, and let's use the other one, Maskani budget and actuals comparison. Okay, so that's our second report set. Let's save that. So if you want to run these two, what do? We go to reports, request financial, multiple report sets. Okay. So report set number 1, Maskani and month 2, and report set number 2, Maskani and month reports. So the difference between running a multiple report set and a single report set is that in the single report set you have the option to change or add optional components at runtime. When you're running multiple report sets, you can't. So you have to do all your report definitions at the report definition stage. Ensure that all the reports that fall under this report set have the correct components, optional components, and all that before you submit your report set. So what happens when you do this? This report set has 2 reports, so you get 2 request IDs. This report set has 2 reports, so you get another 2 request IDs. So in total, you get 4 reports by running a multiple report set once. Okay. We won't fall into the temptation of going to look at our reports. We have learned what we wanted to learn. So that's how you do multiple report sets and single report sets. All right. Okay. So the last thing that we are going to talk about as concerns FSG reports is this level of detail. The level of detail, we have 3 levels of detail: financial analyst, supervisor, and controller. The level of detail is assigned at the row set level or column set level, and also at the report level. Okay. You assign a level of detail to a column definition or a row definition. Okay. Now, these levels of details are arranged in decreasing level of detail. So financial analyst is the highest level of detail. Financial analyst will see everything. Okay. Supervisor level of detail will see everything that's designated supervisor and everything that's designated controller. Okay. Controller will only see what is designated as controller level of detail. So when you're producing reports, you might be producing reports for different audiences or so. So maybe some of them don't want to see all the details. Some of them just want to see some few important details and all that. So you can use this FSG level of detail feature to adjust or to customize the report in that way. So what you do is, this is a representation of an FSG report. You have your rows and you have your columns, right? So you can go ahead and assign level of detail at row definition level and column definition level, right? So supposing we go ahead in a report and we assign level of detail in this way. So once we assign the level of detail at the row set and the column set, we also have to assign a level of detail at the report level. If you don't assign any level of detail, financial analyst level of detail is assumed. That's the default. All right. So that's why we've been seeing everything in our reports, because financial analyst level of detail is assumed. So if you assign, for example, I actually have examples. So let's, assuming we have assigned this level of detail, S for supervisor and C for controller. Remember that controller is lower than supervisor. So supervisor sees everything that's designated supervisor plus everything that's designated controller. So assuming in our report we assign this level of detail at the column definition and the row definition. If we run our report as controller, then what will the report show? So this column is designated controller. Remember, controller is the lowest level of detail. So that report will be able to see this column, and this row is designated what? Controller also. So that report will be able to see the whole of this row, okay? But we won't be able to see all this other stuff that's shaded blue. Why? For example, this row is designated what? Supervisor. Controller is the lowest, so they can't see supervisor. So they'll only see this part of this row because this column is entered as controller, but they won't see the rest of this row because the row is designated as supervisor. Same for this column. This column is designated supervisor, so going vertically, controller shouldn't be able to see this, but this row here is designated controller, so they'll be able to see whatever is at this intersection, okay? If we run the report at the level of detail supervisor, what will we be able to see? We'll be able to see the whole of this row because this row is designated supervisor. We'll also be able to see the whole of this row because it's designated controller, and supervisor sees supervisor plus controller. We'll also be able to see the whole of this column, and we'll also be able to see this column. We won't be able to see the others that are in between here because level of detail assumed is financial analyst, and financial analyst is above supervisor. If we run this report as financial analyst, we see everything because financial analyst level of detail is the highest level of detail. So we see everything, okay? So now that you understand how this works, let's go and do it at the in the system. So let's go to reports, define row set. We are going to use our income statement row set. This income statement row set has how many row definitions? It has revenue accounts, expense accounts, and net income. Okay. So this is where we assign the level of detail, the display options. And you can see your options are financial analyst, supervisor, and controller. Okay. So this is what we are going to do so that we are able to see the changes clearly in the report. we are going to assign one line definition. We are going to assign a financial analyst. The next one we are going to assign supervisor, and the other one we are going to assign controller. Okay. I'm also going to make like some edits to the name so that it is easier to follow. So let's say we want this to be financial analyst, so that it appears in the report, hopefully. All right, so let's assign this as financial analyst level of detail. Okay, and let's save our work. Let's scroll down. Let's assign expense accounts supervisor. Supervisor level of detail. So I'm just adding this so that we can be able to follow when we're reading the report. An actual report wouldn't have such titles for the role definitions. And net income, let's do controller. And assign the level of detail here. Okay. Let's save our work. So what do we expect? When we run the report that contains this row set as financial analyst level of detail, we'll be able to see everything, okay? If we run it as a supervisor, we won't be able to see anything designated as financial analyst, but we'll be able to see everything designated as supervisor and everything designated as controller. If we run the report at controller level of detail, we'll be able to only see controller and we won't be able to see supervisor and financial analyst, right? So let's save our row set. We are going to do the same for our column set that we are going to use. And the column set that we are going to use is also the income statement. To close this now. We have an income statement, and let's see define columns. We have 3 columns here, all of them showing actuals with different offsets. So let's say that for the first column, sequence 10, level of detail here, we want to assign financial analyst, right? Let's save that. For the second one, we want to assign supervisor. For the third one, we want to assign controller. Okay, so we have our column set and row set ready. Let's define the report. I believe we have a report for Maskani income statement. And there it is. It has our 2 row sets and column sets that we are interested in. So for this report, if we run, here is the level of detail. If we run it at financial analyst level of detail, we expect to see everything. So let's run. Let's submit. Okay. Let's run all of them and together, and then we'll go in and take a look. So that's the first one. Let's change this here to supervisor. Save. Run the report. Let's submit. That's the request ID for that. And then finally, let's change this to controller. Save. Run report. And submit. So we have 3 requests that we are going to look out for: 28, 29, and 30. Let's go to our FRS screen. 28 is financial analyst, 29 is supervisor, 30 is controller. So 28 is financial analyst, this one, and it's complete. Let's see the output. That's our income statement. We can see everything for all the periods. We had 3 periods: the period of interest, offset -1 and offset -2. And we can see everything for all the accounts that are concerned. Okay. Let's refresh this. The other 2 reports have been completed. So this one, 29, was supervisor level of detail. Let's see what we're going to see here. So you can see we are only seeing the expense accounts because they're the ones which have been designated supervisor. We are also not seeing anything for this column because everything in this column has been displayed what? Has been designated as financial analyst. This column here was designated as supervisor. This column here was designated as controller. And you can see the net income line was also designated as controller. So supervisor sees everything for controller and for supervisor. And finally, let's look at this report for controller level of output. And we only see net income designated as controller and the final column designated as controller, and we only actually see the intersection of those 2, not everything in the column, right? So that is how the FSG level of detail works and how you can use it to hide some detail. So we have come to the end of the FSG reporting. And also, unless Bob, you have something to add, that's a good place to end this session.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.